Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. The other day I touched on the Zyliss Vise. We got one more subject on this vise that has come to my attention. I think it deserves a quick video. And what that's about is about clamping. And about clamping it to your work surface whenever you want to clamp it. So you take it, it has these two clamps on it that work very similar to the style of an F-clamp. You just put it on there and tighten the knob down and it tightens it in place. This, of course, as it tightens down, it puts pressure on it and that makes it get tighter on the vise itself, on the three rods. So, but there is a flaw with this. Once you put it on and you get it all lined up and you tighten it down as best you can by hand, no matter how tight you make it, no matter how strong your hands are, what happens is let me do this. If I don't take that off of the bench, I know it's going to spill because it's pretty full. So we'll put it down there for a minute instead of on the hot plate. And yes, the next time I take a drink of coffee, it'll probably be cold because I'll forget to put it back. Anyway, this clamp, two of them are held on here. You're working on your piece, and all of a sudden, it pops loose. Just like that. And I got that pretty snug with my hand, but as you can see, they pull loose. And that's one of the flaws of this. Well, years ago, when I saw that flaw, I knew that something had to be done about that. And my answer for that, let me put this in here. My answer to that is, well, first let me show you. See, if I take and I snug this down pretty good with my fingers. Now, again, it's not super cranking, but I have good days and bad days. And on a bad day especially, when you do this and you think, that's on there pretty sturdy, but in all reality, that is what can happen very easily. And that is what's aggravating. So, in order to solve that problem, I have found that my solution for years has been, let me put this back on, tighten it down about tight as I did last time, and usually from the point of contact you get about a half to 3/4 of a turn thereabouts tightening power with your hand. If your hands are younger, maybe a little bit more, but you always still have this problem of pulling loose. So I made what I call a cheater block. And we'll talk about how to make this and what it does exactly, how I use it in a minute. But let me show you basically how it works. You just set it on there, and now instead of from here to here for leverage, I got the whole block. And now you'll see I can very easily go a full half turn more than I could by hand, and that's not really as much as I could put on this with that. So if I turn these down, and let's take and turn this thing at least a half a turn more, now when I grab a hold of this and I want to move it, that ain't coming off. That's how I cured it, is I use a cheater block. But they were talking about other methods the last couple of days, a couple of guys I was talking to about it. And what they have, so I got to looking at this a little bit in a different light, I guess you'd say. Oh, real quick, let's talk about making this, and then we'll talk about another alternative. To make this, quite simply, I just took a block of wood. I drilled a 3/4 inch hole in the center, deep enough to be able to fit on top of one of these. And I will tell you that if you have more than one vise, they all seem to be different from each other. But with this design, it fits on here also without any problem. I did put a little magnet in the bottom, which theoretically was supposed to make contact and give you magnetic. It doesn't really work that well. The magnet I did didn't work. So what I did was I drill a hole where it's in line with the wing, no matter which side I put it on. And now I can take and tighten this up with a set screw that I put in there. And I tighten it up on that, and now it stays on there. So that I don't lose it. If I want to put it on there and have it so I don't lose it while it's sitting somewhere. And then if I want to take it off to take things loose, I can grab this and loosen it up and take it back off. So the set screw is not a bad addition. I added that later on. But the basic unit, made from a block of wood, drilled a 3/4 inch hole, then I did a 1/4 inch dado halfway through the wood, right down the center. And then I shaped it to a pleasing size and shape for my hand so that I was comfortable. It's just a piece of 1x material, I believe. And at its widest point right now, this thing is about 1.5 inches thick. So, and that works really great. And this is what I've used for years and years, and I've never had a problem since I started using this. And on days when I get lazy and don't use it, that's when I almost always inevitably have this thing pop loose. So tightening it down tight enough is important if you don't want it to pop loose like that. So, but let's take a quick look at this a little closer. Let me pop this one back in place on the other vise. And let's take another look at this whole thing. So if you look at this jaw here, you'll see that the surface area of contact on this is actually not all that much. It goes from here, down, around, and back up here, and it's only about probably less than 1/4 inch wide or so on these two, and this one's about 1/8 of an inch in contact. You don't get much contact surface, so when that's on there, there isn't that much contact surface on your tabletop or whatever it is you're attaching it to. And so the amount of friction is not going to be that good. I don't think you get much of a failure from this one, from this. So what I've decided, one guy told me the way he fixed his is he put his clamps on. Whoops. He put his clamps on, and let's just pretend that the vise is still on here for just a second. He drilled a hole through here, and then anytime he puts it down, and when he has it on his vise, he also puts a 1/4 inch dowel in there, and that stops that problem. And it does, except for when you want to move this thing. I'm not so sure I'd like to put 1/4 inch holes everywhere I want to put this thing, type of thing, necessarily in my workbench. But it is an alternative, and it seems to work for him. Now, what I suggest is take a thin piece of good material, 1/8 inch plywood type of thing, for example, and use the rug grip on each side of it so you make little pads. And then you use that pad in between and put that on there. That will give you a little better gripping power. You could do the same thing with double-sided sandpaper. Take a piece of sandpaper, put some glue on it, fold it over so that the grit's on the outside on both sides. Once that dries, you have a double-sided piece of sandpaper. And you slide that under there. When you put this on, you slide that paper and sandpaper in there, you would get it. So you can use the rug tape, make little pads. You probably lose those though with time. That's the only problem with that. You always have to go find them, just tighten this back down on there. It's a piece that you don't have. Anyway, same thing with this though, in all reality. But that is a solution, is to make a non-grip material and set it in between there to give you that more grip. And I'm sure that would work. The other solution I was looking at, and I thought I would try it, is on this one, what I did was I just took that rug tape and I put it directly on there. Now, keep in mind, it's only making contact on the edges here. All this in the center never touches anything. It has no pressure. But when I put this on here now and I tighten it down by hand, and I go that half a turn, and this one I think I would have a hard time pulling off. So I think that it definitely makes a drastic improvement. Without having to use my cheater block, I can tighten this down, I suspect, and get a much better holding power. Let's take a look. So put it on here, Now I'm making contact, so let's torque it down to about, well, that's not even going halfway. That's probably a little excessive of what I normally might do, but you get the drift. And now, that ain't coming off. I think the rubber grip is a valid solution to making these grip better rather than using the cheater block if you want to. So, solution number 2, and I want to thank you guys for talking this over so we can kind of figure out other solutions. You could just do the drill the hole and put the pin in, which was one suggestion. You could make little pads, and I didn't do that, but I could have, and I know that'll work because I've done that many times with some of my other vices. That's what I do to make them work. But just sticking it directly on there, the only thing I'm not sure about is how durable that will stay on there over the period of time, and how bad will it get tore up where it won't even grip anymore. We'll see. I mean, it's easy enough to put it on there. It only takes a half a minute to cut pieces and put them on there. So, but I think the rug tape, it's a winner again. Thanks, Murph. Murph down in Florida. He's the one that turned me onto the tape. And I tell you, I've been finding all sorts of uses for it. And here we go again, another use for that rug grip. So anyway, I wanted to mention this to you. Since it was talked about in the comments, I think it was worth sharing that is the other weak link about one of these, the quirks about these Zyliss Vises, is getting at the grip to your work surface. And as you can see now, there are 2 solutions that I know they work. And so you can kind of find a way that you're most comfortable with and get that gripping power on this thing to be a little bit better without it being a hassle. So, any questions, comments, leave them down below. If you learned something here or you like this video, hit that like button. I know it's a lot of strain, but just hit it just this once so that I know I'm doing something right. I want to thank everybody that watched my last video, and I still can't believe that thing is still pumping out views after 2 days, and I am thoroughly surprised. That is not the same YouTube that was there 6 months ago. But 6 months ago, the activity would fall off after a day and a half, and it'd be done. But this thing seems to be hitting the search engine a little bit better for some reason. I don't know whether it's the subject or whether it's just that they are not so mean with me anymore. Maybe they're starting to put me back in the rotation. Anyway, neither here and there. I want to thank you for coming by. I hope you really like this video. Still warm. Anyway, I want to thank you for coming by. If there's any questions, just leave them in the comments. But please, I hope you come back, because most importantly, that's really what I want, is for you to come back. One of these days, I'll get that all back down to science like I did before. I can't seem to get this ending right. But you get the drift. Thanks for coming by, and we'll see you guys again very soon. Bye.